Everybody, and welcome to this lesson. We will practice some exam in English, and specifically it's the Escuela Oficial de Idiomas exam, and this exam is very popular in Spain. And today we look at the Comunidad de Madrid. This exam is very important to become an English teacher or a secondary school teacher in Spain, and also to become a civil servant as well, to work with the authority and to work with the government. So it's a very good quality English exam. And today we look specifically at the reading exercise, and we can learn a lot of vocabulary, a lot of expressions, and practice some exercise at the same time. So thank you very much for watching. Welcome to everybody who is new, and I hope that you will enjoy the lesson. If you have a question during the lesson, if you have a question or a comment, please put your question in the Facebook chat and I can answer any questions that you have. So please put your question here in the chat, and thank you very much everybody for your comments. Good morning Sandra, and good morning crew ma'am. Thank you so much. So please leave your comment during the lesson and we can try to practice and improve the English during this lesson. So one moment and I'll just say hello everybody, and hopefully you can enjoy this particular lesson. So let's begin. If you want to contact me on Instagram, if you want to contact me on TikTok, YouTube, Pinterest or WhatsApp, this is all the contact information if you want, and hopefully you can connect and follow all the social media channels. My schedule is very similar to last week, practically the same timetable compared to last week. So here is my list for this week, and hopefully you can follow some of the lessons during this week. Everything is free. All my lessons are free and for the public. You can support me if you want. You can make a donation on my Facebook page with the bank details or PayPal. And I'm contacting companies and businesses at the moment who might want to sponsor and finance my project. And I can explain a lot about your company here during my lesson as well if you're interested. Subtitles are available. So if you want to select subtitles during this lesson, Facebook has the fantastic possibility to use subtitles during this lesson to make it easier to understand me. Okay, this is the text, and it's a very typical text from a newspaper article, from a magazine, from a book, and the topic is in relation to paper. So it's an interesting text, and at the bottom of the text we have questions. Okay, multiple choice questions. And multiple choice questions are very typical in English exams. So basically you must select A, B or C for question 0, question 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 and 16. So a lot of questions. First, I think it's important to read and to understand the question. So now we take time to look at the question and try to remember exactly what we are looking for in the text. Okay, so the first question is, when paper was first invented, it was, so it represents paper. So the question is, when paper was invented, paper was manufactured with materials that were difficult to find. I think this is a mistake. This should be hard to find, difficult to find. So this is an error, and the correct word should be hard to find, difficult to find. Option B, paper was not something the Chinese emperor was enthusiastic about. That's the second option. And option C, paper was not used for writing on. And this is the example. So question C is the correct answer. Okay, but let's continue to question 9. Before paper arrived in Europe, paper had been banned. Very important vocabulary. The verb is to ban, and this means to prohibit. Okay, so it's a very important verb, to ban. Smoking is banned. Gambling is banned with the significance prohibited. So very important vocabulary. And in this situation, the question is, paper had been banned by Islam in the Middle East. Okay, so that's option A. Option B, only rich people could afford it. Could is the modal verb for possibility. Could, may, or might for possibilities. And only rich people had the possibility, had the potential, or could afford it. Afford is related to money. They had the ability to pay, they had the ability to buy the paper. So before paper arrived in Europe, only rich people could afford it. Option C, before paper arrived in Europe, writing did not exist in that continent of Europe. So very, very difficult questions. And the first part is to understand very well the questions. Before you read, I think it's very important to understand the questions. Question 10. The writer or the author claims that banknotes will never ever disappear. Okay, so to disappear or to vanish, a synonym for disappear is to vanish. And the writer claims that banknotes will never disappear, okay, or will never vanish. Or option B, the writer, the author claims, believes, states that people's assumptions about the disappearance of paper are wrong. So people assume, people think, people believe that paper will disappear, and the writer thinks this is a mistake, this is not correct. So is that true or not? We don't know. Option C, the writer or the author claims that the paper industry is in crisis because of modern technology. So this is a typical combination, because of. Another typical combination, in crisis. You are in crisis, we are in crisis. So there's three very difficult options. Next, in relation to plastic, specifically regarding plastic, the text explains that plastic, it is not really as bad. So as is connected to as, that's a typical structure. As bad as, comparison, as happy as bad as. Is not really as bad for the environment as most people believe. So maybe plastic is okay, according to the text. Option B, private companies will soon be required by law to recycle all of the plastic. This is option B, that the private companies soon will be required to recycle all of the plastic. Option C, the restrictions on the use of plastic are stricter. So strict is the adjective, stricter is the comparison, stricter in India compared to, stricter than, in the Western world. So this is option 11. Question 12, about the process of bleaching. Very important. So the verb to bleach is typical with the hair. You can bleach your hair, and this means to change the color of your hair to make it very white. And in paper, they have the process of bleaching as well. We learn that it is absolutely essential in the manufacturing process. So bleaching is essential, option A. Option B, it responds to our demand for a bright white paper. So demand is very important. It's the key word here, the verb to demand. Your manager, your boss, your company demands that you work very hard. Your manager insists. So demand is like to insist. It's a very important word here. So bleaching responds to our necessity, our need for a bright white paper. Or option 3, we learn that using ozone is more polluting. So ozone is a specific chemical. We must pay attention to this word. Question 13. As for, in relation to the toxic waste generated by factories, the text says that governments spend a lot of money cleaning it. So governments spend a lot of money cleaning the toxic waste. The toxic waste is dangerous in very small amount. Amount has the significance quantity. Or the toxic waste kills 2% of the animals and plants. So this is very difficult. This exercise is very difficult. I recommend that you try to do this exercise yourself without me first. So I recommend you take a picture of the questions, you take a picture of the text and try to do the exercise. In this lesson, my plan is to show you the important vocabulary, really, and maybe to find the answers. But first, we must read the answers and the questions to give you a good idea first, and then I will explain the vocabulary. 3 more. Regarding, in relation to deforestation, difficult pronunciation, the article claims, the article believes that a forest area the size of Egypt is lost forever every year. That's option A. Option B, consuming more paper does not automatically lead to, very, very important combination, lead to. A leader is the person, but the verb is to lead. And this combination with the preposition to is very important. It's for consequence. For example, drinking coffee leads to no sleep. So the consequence of drinking coffee is no sleep. So drinking lots of coffee leads to no sleep. And that's the significance of this combination, lead to. It's the consequence. Eating a lot of chocolate leads to a headache. So the consequence. So it's very important. In this case, consuming more paper does not automatically lead to the consequence of more deforestation. Option C, federal law in America forces the companies to plant millions of trees. A plant is the noun like a flower, a plant. However, the verb is to plant. The verb to plant is to put the flower in the ground, to put the tree in the ground, the verb to plant. So it's very flexible in English. Number 15, we learn about recycled paper, that 80% of Europeans recycle their paper, option A. Option B, EU countries recycle more tons of it than the US. So a ton is a big quantity, a big measurement. The verb is to measure and the noun is measurement. Okay. Option C, there was not enough of it. It represents recycled paper. There was not enough recycled paper to meet the demand. So the demand is the necessity people require, and to meet the demand is the expression in the US in 2018. Final question, number 16. A lot of recyclable materials end up being burnt. Very difficult vocabulary. End up is a phrasal verb. The significance is in the final position. For example, I go to the city centre with my friends for a party. We start in this pub, we move to another restaurant, we move to another pub, we move to another pub, and we end up in this pub. So the final result, the final location is to end up. Very important. In your career, it's possible as well. You start as a worker, you change the company, you change your job, you change again, and finally you end up in a big company. It's your final position, your final result, to end up. Being is from the verb to be, and burnt is very important. The verb is to burn. You burn with the fire, and the past is irregular with the T, burnt, and the participle also is burnt. Burn, burnt, burnt. Okay, so a lot of recyclable materials finally are burnt. Option A, although it is more expensive than recycling it. Option B, because they could transmit diseases. Option C, because they were not suitable, they were not appropriate for recycling. So this is the exercise, very typical in Escuela Oficial de Idioma exams. Difficult, and your job, if you are preparing the exam, your job is to focus on the questions. Very important. Now we look at the text, and this text is very interesting, and this text is more enjoyable than the questions, and the topic is about paper. So specifically the topic is related to paper. Here are the instructions. Task 2, read the following text and choose the option A, B or C which best completes the sentences according to, very important combination, according to the text. Then write your answer in the corresponding position in the corresponding box on the page. Okay, so this is the topic, how paper is making a comeback. What is the significance of a comeback? Very, very important. The verb is to come and back is return. So for instance, I go to Italy for my holiday and I come back in August. I return. That is the verb, to come back. However, here it is the noun, a comeback, and it's very typical in sport. You have two teams in sport. One team is winning 2-3-0, and this team comes back, returns 3-1, 3-2, 3-3, 4-3. So this team was losing, but now they come back, they return. And this is the context for paper, because paper becomes less important. Technology, computer, paper is less important. But now paper is returning to be important. That is the significance of a comeback. Very typical with actors, very typical with singers, musicians. For example, a musician is very famous and suddenly very quiet, no music, but later they come back, they return to be important and return to be famous. Okay, let's read the text paragraph by paragraph to look at the vocabulary. Is paper here to stay, or are its days numbered? Very good expression. So here to stay means here to continue. The verb to stay means to continue, permanent. So it's a question. Do we think paper will stay? To create the question, we change the position of the subject and the verb to create the question. For example, you are happy is the affirmative, you are happy. To create the question, we change the position of the verb and the subject. Are you happy is the question. Affirmative, you are happy. Question, are you happy? Therefore, this is the same structure here. Affirmative, paper is here to stay. Question, is paper here to stay? Next expression, days are numbered. This is a very famous expression. Your days are numbered. This has the significance your days are limited. So for example, in terms of, I don't know, so basically if your days are limited, your days are numbered, at the end you will finish. And in your job, your days are numbered in your job. This means you will finish your job, you will leave the company in 2 weeks. So your days are numbered, you're almost finished. That's a very famous expression in English. Your days are numbered. Significance, your days are limited and you will finish very soon. You will lose your control, lose the power, lose your position. Okay. Let's read the first paragraph and try to understand the vocabulary. Remember, the questions are here. Here are the questions, and maybe this is important to keep in mind. And the first question is, paper arrived in Europe. So maybe we can search for the question at the same time. So keep in mind the question. At the time of its invention, life was hard, life was difficult if you had, okay, so this is the conditional. Life was difficult if, conditional, if you had something you needed to remember. Okay, so very interesting. Life was difficult, life was hard if you needed to remember something at the time of the invention of paper. Okay, so as a result, when a government official, a politician, a member of parliament, an official from the government, finally invented paper in AD 105 in China, it was a big deal. What is the significance? A big deal. It's very important in English. A big deal has the significance, a big moment, very important invention, very important thing. Very typical in conversation. For example, my friend cannot come to my party. It is impossible for my friend to come to my party. I am very sad, but I say it's no problem, no big deal. It's very similar to no problem, no big deal. Okay, so that's the significance here. In this case, it was a big deal. It was dramatic. So basically, it's very good English expression. It was a big deal. It was dramatic. It was very important. It involved, so it is the subject. The subject is inventing paper. So it is the subject, and the substitution for the subject is inventing paper. Involved, mashing up, very difficult to understand, very important, very fluent, but very difficult. The verb to mash is complicated, and to mash is like this process. For example, potatoes. In English, we say mashed potatoes. And when you have the hard potato, the potato is very hard, but you mash the potato, almost destroy the potato. You mash the potato. Okay, so that's the significance here. However, to mash up is very modern, and the significance is to combine and to mix. Very typical with music. One song and a different song, two different songs, and you combine the two songs, you mash up. So it's very similar to the verb to mix. Okay, so to mix and to mash up is very advanced English, very important. And this sentence, inventing paper, making paper, requires you to mix, to mash up a mixture of cloth. Very important pronunciation. Cloth. Very, very interesting. Very interesting. Let me explain. A cloth is a material typical in the kitchen to clean. You have a cloth. The verb is different pronunciation. The verb is to clothe. To clothe has the significance to give clothes to a person. For example, the baby. The baby requires clothes. So the verb is to clothe the baby, to put the clothes on the baby. Very similar to dress, but not the same. So obviously it's related to clothes, jumper, trousers, t-shirt, etc. These are your clothes in the noun, but the verb is to clothe, and the noun singular is a cloth. So very, very important. Therefore, to make paper, you mix cloth, bark, very difficult vocabulary, very specific vocabulary. Bark is the material from the tree. You have a tree, you have the branches, so vocabulary related to the tree. You have branch, so let me explain. You have a tree, you have a branch, you have a leaf, you have a trunk, and you have bark. So these are very, very important vocabulary related to a tree. So the branch is the object on the tree. You have lots of branches. In Spanish, a rama. Okay, so that's a branch. In English, we have a phrasal verb to branch out. This has the significance to become independent. Typical for a young person, 18, 19, branch out, to become independent. Also, the bank. The bank has a different branch, different office, a branch. The same concept as the tree, the branch. A leaf is the green object, hoja, in Espanol or maybe Portuguese. The leaf is the green part of the tree. The trunk is the bottom of the tree. So you have the tree and the branch. So the trunk is the base of the tree. The important part of the tree is the trunk. For the body, for a person, your trunk is your body. This is your trunk. It's possible your trunk. In the United States, the trunk is the back part of the car. So in English, we say open the trunk, and this has the significance open the back part of the car, where your bag, you put your bag in the trunk in the United States. In Ireland or the UK, it's typical the boot, the back part of the car. You open the boot or you open the trunk in the United States. But for the tree, the trunk is the body of the tree. The bark, very, very interesting because it's possible the verb to bark related to the dog. The noise the dog makes is to bark, woof, woof, woof. So that is the dog. But bark related to the tree is the material of the wood. The material of the trunk is the bark. So it's a synonym for a type of wood. Okay, so in English it's a type of wood, and in this case this is the vocabulary. So you mix the cloth, you mix the bark from the tree, and nets. What is a net? When you go fishing, you have the fishing stick or the fishing rod, but also you have the fishing net. The fishing net catches the fish. In football, you have the goal and you have the net. In tennis, you have the net. In basketball, you have the net. So the net is the material like this, and it catches the fish. And to make paper, we also need a net. Like the internet, it's the same concept. So we mix cloth, bark, and nets with some water to create a paste. A paste is like a liquid. Okay. The new invention was a hit with the emperor. What is the significance of a hit? The verb is to hit. This is like to impact. For example, the ball. You play tennis and you hit the ball. So hit is the verb to hit, and the noun is a hit. This means one strong impact. But in relation to music, in relation to success, it's possible to have a song, a song is a hit. This has the significance the song had a big impact, the song was very successful. In this case, the new invention, paper, was a hit. It was very successful. It had a big impact, very popular, a hit, very successful. Very interesting vocabulary. With the emperor, though, however, but initially, at the beginning, it was, paper was only used for wrapping precious objects. This verb is very, very important. The verb to wrap. At Christmas, you prepare the gifts, you prepare the presents, and you wrap the paper. The significance of wrap is similar to cover. Very, very important. In the restaurant, you order a chicken wrap. The chicken wrap is the food that covers the chicken. The bread, it's like bread that covers the chicken. This is a chicken wrap. When it is very cold, you need a jumper, you need a jacket, you need a scarf, you need to cover yourself. In English, we wrap up. So it's a very, very important word, the verb to wrap. And it's very flexible. So to wrap up means to stay warm, to wrap a present at Christmas, and a chicken wrap is another typical context as well. The food that covers the chicken when you eat, it's a chicken wrap. So it's very, very flexible. Finally, in the movie, the director says that is a wrap. And this is the expression when you finish the movie, everything is complete, everything is finished. The director of the movie says that's a wrap. So everything is finished, you can cover the movie and send the movie. It's also possible the verb to wrap up a meeting. Very important, to wrap up means to finish, to tidy, to organize, to wrap up the meeting and finish. So it's really, really important words in English. And here, paper initially was only used for covering, wrapping precious objects. But soon enough, paper began. Irregular, the verb is to begin. The past is irregular, began. The participle is begun. Begin, began, begun. So it's an irregular verb. So in this situation, it's the past simple. Paper is the subject. Begin is the verb in the past. Began, to change the world. Okay, very, very good. That's the first paragraph. A lot of important vocabulary. Very, very important vocabulary. Do you have a question? Any questions in relation to vocabulary? Any questions in relation to the first paragraph? Please put your question in the Facebook chat. And perfect. Thank you so much. Hello, Ploy. Hello, Pornapa. And thank you so much, Sandra, as well. So I appreciate the comments and thank you. If you have a question or a doubt, please put your question in the chat. So very, very interesting first paragraph. Very interesting. A lot of important vocabulary. Very important. We continue to the second paragraph. First, we check the question. Is it possible to answer the question? The question is, before paper arrived in Europe, so we don't know the question yet. The first question is, when paper was first invented, it was not used for writing on. Because when it was first invented, paper was used for wrapping precious objects. That's the first question. Second question for the second paragraph. Okay, let's begin. In the Middle East is the name of the region, for example, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Dubai, United Arab Emirates, maybe Israel. That is all the Middle East. It's a region of the world, the Middle East. The introduction of paper coincided, very advanced, very important vocabulary. The verb is to coincide. When two things happen at the same time, two things, two situations occur, happen at the same moment, coincide. For example, my party coincides with your party. So my party is Saturday, your party is Saturday. The two parties coincide together. Very, very important. With the golden age of Islam, allowing, permitting, to allow, to permit, to let. There's three verbs, very important and very similar. To allow, to permit, and to let. Okay, I put here to allow, to permit, and to let. One rule, specifically the rule with let. For example, the next verb is the infinitive. We remove to. Let me explain. To allow me to go, to permit me to go. That is good, correct, correct, correct. However, let, it's a rule. We eliminate to. After let, no to. Let me have, let me go, let me eat, let me drink, let me talk. It's necessary to eliminate to after the verb let. That's very, very important. Okay. Allowing a scholar. What is a scholar? A scholar is an academic person, a student. A scholar is more for university. Student in school, student in primary, high school, secondary school, student. Scholar is more university. More advanced studies is a scholar. It's possible the word scholarship. A scholarship is the money you receive to begin your project. So let me put the vocabulary here. We have a scholar and we have a scholarship. And you can see my camera, my video is flashing. So give me one moment and I change the camera. And now that's perfect. I think it's better. So a scholar is like a student, but more specifically for university. A scholarship is the agreement between the university and the student, and maybe the university pay the money for the student. So the student does not pay, the university covers and pays the money for the student because the student is very talented, very good ability, very smart. So the university pay the money for the student, or the government pay the money. That is a scholarship. It's a special agreement, a special arrangement, a special contract, a scholarship. Typical in university. The university want the best students, the best scholars. Okay, so permitting, allowing scholars to record, so to note, to record. Typically record is the camera, the video, record the video. But it's possible with paper to record, to remember, to note. Very important vocabulary. A breakthrough. Very, very important. Good quality English. Very interesting. So the verb to break is this action. Break my pen, break my book, break my telephone, break my heart. So break is very important. Here we have the preposition through. So it's a phrasal verb, to break through. Phrasal verb. Remember, phrasal verb, verb plus preposition. The verb is to break through. Let me explain. It's typical with studying, investigation. You study, you study, you study, you search for the solution. The doctor search, the medical people search for solution. No solution. So no solution. They search, no solution. And finally, yes, finally, you have a solution and they break through. So to break through is to have success, to have a result. Very important concept. Very good quality English. Therefore, the noun is a breakthrough, and the significant is similar to a result, a special finding. So the scholars, the doctors, search for the answer, study, no success, no result, but finally breakthrough, and they have success, they have a result. So a breakthrough is something positive and something fantastic, and in science, obviously, it's very important because the doctor, the scientist, have the result, the new information. That's a breakthrough. Very interesting. Also, we have a different concept, to break out. When you contain the virus. Contain. But one day the virus escape and the virus break out. I think in Spanish, la brote. A la brote is the problem when the virus escape. So that's another phrasal verb, verb plus preposition with a completely different significance. So here we have a breakthrough, a success, new information in science. It took, so the process, the subject it represents the process. Took is related to time. For example, to make lasagna takes me 30 minutes. Making lasagna, the process takes me 30 minutes to make it. I need 30 minutes to make the lasagna. The flight from London to Paris, the flight takes 30 minutes. It requires 30 minutes of time. So in this situation, the process required more than 1,000 years. A long time required to arrive in Europe. Okay? In Europe, where people had to write very difficult grammar, very difficult verbal form. The verb to write, no problem. Write your email, write your paper. Had. What does this mean? This is the auxiliary verb have. The first verb is the auxiliary verb have in the past, had, plus the participle. The participle also is had. So this is the past perfect. Had to write. It was an obligation to write. On the skins, skin is your body. You have your nose, your eyes, and your skin is piel. In Espanol, your piel, okay, skin. We have a lot of expressions in English related to skin, but in this situation, it's a skin of calves. What's the significance of a calf? Well, a calf is an animal. A calf is a young cow. A baby cow in English is a calf. Singular. Plural are 3 calves. Plural. Pronunciation, calves. Calves. Very difficult. Calves. 1 calf, the baby, and 3 calves. Also, a calf muscle is a particular muscle on the body. It's your calf muscle. So your leg, you have your foot, your knee on your leg, and your calf muscle is at the back. This muscle at the back is the calf muscle. So this is a leg, and this is your knee, rodilla in Espanol, your foot, and your calf is the muscle at the back. That's the second significance. In this article, the skin of calves means the cow skin, the animal of the cow. Okay, so you need to write on the skin of the animal. Goat, another animal. In Spanish, una cabra, a goat. It's a special animal. It's typically lives in the mountains. It's a goat. And sheep, very important also, because singular is one sheep in English, plural is irregular in English, sheep. So one sheep, 6 sheep. Very, very important, and the significance is irregular. So one sheep and 4 sheep, irregular plural in English, very important. Europeans is a person from Europe. Slaughtered, very, very important verb. Here we have ed. Ed represents the past simple. The regular construction of the past simple is ed. Ask, asked. Report, reported. Record, recorded. To create the past simple, we add ed. The verb is very difficult here. The verb in English is to slaughter, and the significance is to kill, specifically for animals. It's possible to kill the animal, and in English this is to slaughter the animal. The pronunciation is difficult. Slaughter. In English, we have a slaughterhouse. A slaughterhouse is the place, the location where they kill the animals for food. A slaughterhouse. Very important word. In Spanish, in Madrid, you have the matadero. The matadero is the slaughterhouse. So the verb to slaughter has the significance to kill. So Europeans killed millions of sheep, plural, irregular, one sheep, millions of sheep, to make, to create, to produce parchment with their skin. So parchment is a specific word, an old word to represent a type of paper. The old original paper is a parchment. A product available to the wealthy only. So a very important word here, wealthy. What is the significance of wealthy? Wealthy has the significance very rich. A wealthy person, a very rich person. A wealthy area, a very rich area. A wealthy community, a very rich community. So wealthy has the significance people with a lot of money. In English, we have an expression. We say your health is your wealth. A very famous expression. Let me write here in the text. Your health is your wealth. In Spanish, tu sanidad es tu fortuna. Algo como es tu sanidad es tu rico. So your health, your body, your mind, your life is what's important. The money is not important. Your health is more important. So wealth means rich. And the product, the paper, original paper, only available for the rich people. Okay, when large-scale paper production finally reached Europe, very, very important sentence, it made mass literacy possible in the region for the first time. Large-scale production. The scale, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, this is the scale. So large scale means a large quantity, a big number, 50, 200, 2000, large scale. Production, to make. So large scale production has the significance you're making, producing big, big quantities of products, large scale production. You're making a big quantity. Finally, reached. ED represents the past simple, reached. The verb is to reach. Very important. To reach is flexible. For example, my book is in this position. Here is my book, and I need to reach for the book. I need to obtain the book, to reach. In English, we have the expression to reach for the stars. Reach for the stars. Your ambition, you reach for the stars. Very flexible verb, very, very important. And paper finally reached Europe. The significance is to arrive to Europe. For example, after the party, at 10 o'clock, after the party, you reach home, you arrive home. So reach is very important in English, and in this situation, the significance is to arrive home, to arrive to Europe. It, the production, the mass production, the large scale production represents it. Made, the verb to make. In the present, make. In the past, irregular, make, made. Literacy, the ability to read, your skill, your talent, your ability to read. That's literacy. Possible, in the region for the first time. So this production, the consequence of the production was the ability for many, many people to improve the ability to read. Very interesting sentence. Paragraph, very, very good. Very good quality paragraph. Lots of vocabulary, lots of information, lots of very, very good quality. The question. This is the question. Before paper arrived in Europe, it had been banned, prohibited by Islam in the Middle East. Only rich people could afford it. Or writing didn't exist in the continent. Very difficult. What do you think is the correct answer? For me, I think maybe only rich people could afford it because wealthy, this key sentence, for me is the reason for the answer. Okay, so this sentence, I think, is the correct answer. Okay, do you have a question? Any questions on Facebook? Let me check the Facebook comments and I can give you an answer. And hello, everybody. Thank you so much, Apiwat and Pele. Pele, the football player, no? So Sandra, you say Pele, but what's the significance of Pele? I obviously know the football player Pele in Brazil, but I don't know the significance of the word Pele in Brazil or in Portuguese. So thank you for your comment, and we continue to the next paragraph. Okay, today, in the age of computers, you could be tempted to predict the end of this ancient wonder material. But though there has been a significant decline in the demand for graphic, so-called graphic paper, like newspapers and books, the paper industry is growing like never before. Okay, so the industry is growing like never before. From napkin to cardboard boxes, it's hard to imagine, it's difficult to imagine modern life without paper, without it. We are definitely moving towards a cashless society. A cashless society with credit cards, fingerprint recognition devices, very important vocabulary, or whatever they may invent, but a paperless society, out of the question. Very interesting paragraph, some important vocabulary. Could be has the significance may, might, could, modal for possibility. So you have the possibility to be tempted. Tempted is related to temptation. So the chocolate is my temptation and I am tempted to take the chocolate. So you might be tempted today, because we have a lot of computers, you might be tempted to predict, to imagine, to forecast. So vocabulary, to predict and to forecast are very, very similar. For example, the weather, you forecast the weather, you predict the weather. The end of this ancient material, so the end of paper, is maybe a prediction, because today we have a lot of technology and paper is not required, you think. But however, though there has been a significant decline, a decline in the demand, in the need for graphic paper. So-called is very important vocabulary. The significance is most people call this graphic paper. Like newspapers and books, the paper industry is growing like never before. So today the industry is growing better than ever, better than the past. From is connected to. Okay, so from 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock, from 6 o'clock to 2 o'clock, from Monday to Tuesday. Napkin. What is the significance of a napkin? In Spanish, it's panuelo. So when you have your dinner, you need a napkin. It's like a tissue. A napkin is a type of a tissue typical in the restaurant. You need a napkin. The baby has a napkin, or a dribbler, difficult vocabulary, but a napkin is a tissue when you eat in the restaurant, a napkin. And to make the napkin, you need paper. Cardboard box, you also need paper. The box for your product, from Amazon, from the delivery, you need a cardboard box. It's hard to imagine, it's difficult to imagine modern life without paper. We are, subject, we, the verb to be, definitely is the adjective or the adverb, moving towards. Towards is a preposition for direction. Remember, sidewards, backwards, forwards, upwards, downwards. It's very flexible for direction. Specifically, the suffix wards, a cashless society, a society with no cash, no money, only telephone, only technology to pay, no cash, no money. Well, no cash is different, the notes and the coins. With credit cards, fingerprint, this is your finger, and the fingerprint is the image from your finger, the mark from your finger, that's your fingerprint. It's possible you have fingerprint device. A device is technology, and recognition is to identify, so the technology to identify your fingerprint. That is the future. Or whatever, anything. They, the scientists, the professionals, the scholars, may, might, could, three possibilities, invent. But a paperless society, out of the question, not going to happen, impossible. So this is the question, the dilemma, the debate, and if something is out of the question, the significance is it's not realistic, it's not possible to happen, it's out of the question, not possible. Okay, very, very good. The question, what is the question of the text? So let me find the question, and I think I lost the question. Here we go. The question is here. Oh, sorry. Let me move that over here so I can see it perfect. So what is the question for this paragraph? The question is, the author claims that banknotes will never ever disappear. People's assumptions that the disappearance of modern paper are wrong. The paper industry is in crisis because of modern technology. Very difficult, because the three options are very similar. Very, very similar options, but one option is better. What do you think is the correct answer? For me, the correct answer is will never ever disappear, because of the last comment, out of the question. This is an expression. It's impossible to happen. For example, Manchester United winning the Premier League, out of the question. Impossible. Never ever going to happen. I'm not sure, but that's an example. And that is the reason the option A is the correct answer. So I think for number 10 is A, and number 9, so I think 10 is A, and number 9, the answer for number 9 is B, I think, and number 8 is perfect. Okay, so let's go to the next question. And sorry again, I need to move all these windows. The next question is number 11. Okay, so number 11, regarding plastic, in relation to plastic, the text explains that plastic is not really bad for the environment, as people believe, that private companies will soon be required by law to recycle plastic. Or option C, the restrictions on the use of plastic are more strict in India compared to the West. Okay, let's read the paragraph. In actual fact, which is a very interesting expression, basically it means in reality, paper seems, appears, looks to be winning the battle against plastic. So paper appears to be winning the battle against plastic. Canada recently accepted, recognized a ban. Remember the significance, a ban, a prohibition. The verb is to ban, and the noun is a ban, a prohibition on certain plastic items, products, particular plastic products for next year. So Canada have prohibited particular certain plastic items for next year, while, however, the EU, the European Union, has plans, has ideas to eradicate, to remove some of the most notorious means famous for maybe the wrong reasons. So a company is notorious, it's very well known and famous for pollution and the use of plastic by 2025. India has gone further. So the verb is to go, it's the present perfect. To create the present perfect, we have the auxiliary verb have plus the participle has gone further. Further is related to the adjective far. For example, the shopping center is far from the city center and the shopping center. There's a big distance, it's very far. The comparative, further. So the shopping center is far from the city center, but the cinema is further than the shopping center, more distance. So India has gone further in relation to action. So the action, more action. Already prohibiting, banning, ban, prohibit, the same synonym, prohibiting single-use plastic altogether. Altogether has the significance completely. Are you happy? Are you altogether happy? Are you completely happy? Altogether has the significance completely, totally. And in this situation, they prohibit totally. They prohibit completely. Many businesses have announced, it's the present perfect. The verb is to announce, to give information, to officially explain. For example, in the family, if you are getting married, if you are marrying your partner, you tell everybody, you announce. Social media, your family, you announce, you tell everybody your news. So this is the verb to announce. The substantive is announcement, an official and important comment you want to say. This is an announcement. So the company announced in the past, ed, in the past, and they, the company, will be replacing, it's the future continuous, will be replacing. Item is a product, throw away is the verb to remove, to throw away. And In this situation, it's the adjective, throw away plastic items, items people remove immediately after one use, with paper versions. Okay, so very specific vocabulary, very good quality. But question, because we changed the position of the subject and the verb, the affirmative, plastic is. The question is plastic. The villain has the significance the enemy. Is plastic the enemy? Is plastic the villain? And paper the hero. So this is a question. The hero means the best, the superhero, the fantastic thing. Plastic may, could, might, it's a possibility, very well be, it might really be polluting our planet, destroying our planet with the toxins, polluting. But paper is not as green as, you remember the structure, as, adjective, as, comparison, as green as, it is portrayed. The verb to portray is to show. So you portray this character in the movie, you show, you represent, portray. Very good quality English. Very interesting, very good quality. Again, the question is here. And what do you think is the correct question? So regarding plastic, it is not really as bad for the environment as people believe. Private companies will soon be required to recycle it. Restrictions on its use are stricter in India than the rest. Yes, option C, I think, because India has gone further, more stricter. Okay, so the EU are strict, but India are stricter, more strict, so they go further. So I think the answer for 11 is C, in my opinion. So let's write the answers here. And I think that answer is 11C. They move to the next paragraph, and the next paragraph is here. And let's begin. The process of making paper starts with the raw wood. Raw is a very important adjective, typical in construction. When you make a house, when you construct, you need the raw materials. This means the basic materials. So let me write the vocabulary here because it's very important. We say raw materials like wood, cement, they are the basic materials. Also, the food is raw. This has the significance the food is not ready, the food is not cooked. The meat is raw. In Espanol, crudo. So the meat or the food is raw, and the significance is the food is not cooked properly. It's possible your emotions are raw, and this means you are very sensitive because your emotions are very pure and open. So your emotions are raw and the food is raw as well. So very, very important vocabulary and very good quality English as well. So the raw wood means the basic wood. First, the wood, is turned into, converted, a brown paste. A paste is like a liquid. It's converted into a brown paste, a liquid. Then the second step, the second stage is the bleaching. Remember, the verb to bleach is to change the color. You can bleach your hair. Peroxide, to put the color in your hair, to bleach. Chlorine dioxide is added. Addition, to achieve, to obtain, to get a high level of brightness. The adjective is bright. The light is very bright, adjective, but the noun is brightness. So to achieve, to obtain a high level of color with the paper, you need to bleach with chlorine dioxide. Appearing vividly white, so appearing really, really white, very, very white. Vividly is very good vocabulary because it reflects a lot of blue light. Blue light, I don't know the significance, but it appears very, very white because of the reflection of the bleach. In Europe, the industry uses oxine since chlorine dioxide has a much bigger environmental impact. Okay, so chlorine dioxide is very strong, it has a big impact. As a result, Europe use oxone. Oxone is better compared to chlorine dioxide. This is a step, an action which could be skipped. Verb to skip is to jump. For example, in school or work, if you skip a meeting, you avoid the meeting. You do not attend because you skip the meeting. In the disco, you have the line and you skip the line. So this step in the process could be skipped, jumped, avoided altogether with the significance completely, totally. If only we were happy with using slightly means a little. Are you happy? Slightly happy. A little happy. Are you hungry? Slightly hungry. A little hungry. Slightly less white paper means a little less white paper. Okay, very interesting paragraph. And now we'll check the questions again. And the question is in relation to plastic. Sorry, the next question is number 12. The process of bleaching, we learn that it is absolutely essential in the manufacturing process. No, it's not essential. It's only essential to have the really white color. Option B. It responds to our demand for a bright white paper. So yes, the process of bleaching is only used because we require very, very white paper. Option C. Using ozone is more polluting. No, the opposite. Ozone is better, less damaging, less impact in relation to pollution. So the answer is definitely B. So number 12, I think, is 12B. Next, we move to the next paragraph. And again, if you have a question, you can put your question in the Facebook chat. Pele is skin. Okay, very good. I understand. Very good. So in Espanol, it's PL. So in Portuguese, in Brazil, it's Pele. Very good. So I understand. Let's continue to the next paragraph. After the bleaching, after the process is over, finished, complete, there is the technical challenge, difficulty. In Espanol, reto. There is the technical difficulty of treating. Treating is very important. It's to manage the cocktail, the mix of chemicals that the water contains. So after the process of bleaching, the water contains a lot of chemicals and it's necessary to manage this water, to treat this water, okay, so that the consequences, so that it can be eliminated safely. The toxins, the chemicals can be eliminated, have the possibility, have the ability to be eliminated safely. This process is rather expensive. Do you remember the explanation of rather? There's 3 different significances and uses of rather. I would rather. Number 1, I would rather, significance, I would prefer. Rather than has the significance instead of. Number 2, rather than. Number 3, before the adjective, rather tired, rather hungry, rather angry, meaning quite. So this significance is before the adjective with the significance quite. So the process is expensive, it's quite expensive, it's rather expensive. And in some countries, the fines is related to money, the penalty. A fine is a penalty, financial penalty, a fine. And in some countries, the penalties, the fines, are not heavy, not big penalties, small penalties. So As a result, as a consequence, therefore, some paper factories, the location to manufacture factories, skip this, jump this, avoid this, and simply discharge. So basically, to discharge is to release, to send, to discharge straight, directly into the water supply. So very important vocabulary, to discharge the pollution, to send the pollution into the supply of water, where it's highly toxic. It's very, very toxic in this location for fish and other wildlife, even at concentrations of 2%. So only 2% of the water has the toxins. Still, it's very, very dangerous. Okay, so the question here is number 13. As for the toxic waste generated by factories, the text says that governments spend a lot of money cleaning it. No. It is dangerous in very small amounts. Yes. So even 2%, very small quantity, it's very, very dangerous. So the option, I think, is option B. Very obvious, I think. It kills 2% of animals and plants. No. This sentence explains only 2% concentration of the water is very dangerous. So therefore, it is very dangerous in a small quantity. So option B is necessary for 13. Okay, number 14, we continue and we move to the next paragraph. Any questions? You can put your question here in the chat, and that's perfect. So no questions at the moment. Next, another issue is the trees. Each year, the global industry is fed by more than 100 million hectares of forest. Okay, an area, hectares of forest, an area around the same size as Egypt. However, though we're often told that saving paper saves trees, this is not necessarily true. In countries where forests are not sustainably managed, important habitats can be destroyed. Okay, so a habitat is a place where people live. It's a habitat, a place where the people live. The location is the habitat, the home. The person is an inhabitant. This is the person that lives in the location, an inhabitant. The location is a habitat, and very important vocabulary and difference here. But in responsibly managed areas, so the area is very managed, adjective, responsibly managed, sometimes using more paper has the possibility, ironically, funnily, lead to, remember the consequence, lead to more trees, because many companies have an internal policy of planting, putting the new tree to plant. Several has the significance many, a lot, trees for every one that is cut down. So you cut down one tree and you plant more. This is the policy of some companies. In the US, the United States, 1.7 million trees are planted each day by the industry, according to the USDA Forest Service. So what is the question for this paragraph? The question is deforestation. The article claims that a forest area the size of Egypt is lost forever every year. Yes, well, maybe. Definitely the size of Egypt is cut down, but they reproduce. But I think maybe A. Option B, consuming more paper doesn't automatically lead to more deforestation. Yes, that's definitely possible, because the company, ironically, plant more trees after that cut down. Or option C, federal law in America forces paper companies. No, it's not the law. It's, I think, a policy, an internal policy. So it's not federal law, it's internal policy. So let's check Egypt. I think option B. I think option A is definitely possible, but I think the best option is option B. So for number 14, I'm selecting B again. This is 14. So we have a lot of B's. So that's interesting. Not necessarily incorrect, but we have a lot of B's for this one. The final paragraph. Perhaps the biggest game changer, very interesting vocabulary, the action that changes the rules completely, that's a game changer, in the paper world has been recycling. Recycling is the most important, influential activity. In the US, the world's gross recycling leader. So this means the US has the biggest statistics, the best statistics comparison to other countries in terms of recycling. 64 million tons. A ton is a measurement, a big quantity per year. It accounts for, it amounts, calculation. America, the US accounts for nearly 40% of the nation's total paper supply. In fact, in 2018, the demand, the requirement, the need for recycled paper exceeded the available supply. Okay. Meanwhile, however, in Europe, EU countries have the highest recycling rates in the world. Incredibly, 80% of the 40 million tons of paper used in Europe was recycled in 2018. Yet, at the beginning of the sentence, yet has the significance however. So yet is typical at the end of the sentence with the negative. I don't have food yet. I don't have my book yet. Typical at the end of the sentence, but it's possible in the position at the beginning, meaning however, or in the middle, meaning however. So this significance is however. Recycling is not the answer if it is not done well enough. So if the recycling is completed badly, it's not good. Millions of tons of recyclable materials were rejected last year because they were incorrectly sorted out. Sorted out means organized. For example, your room is very untidy. You need to sort out and organize your room. That's the significance, to sort out. Or had food contamination. As it turns out, very difficult. You remember the explanation end up, the final solution, the final position, to end up. Turn out is very similar, the end of the process. So as it turns out, it costs more money to reorganize, resort, than, more than, to simply reject whole bins, total bins, complete bins, and send them to be incinerated, to be burnt or buried in a landfill. It's a very difficult paragraph, full of vocabulary. A landfill is the land with the space to absorb the rubbish. And the verb is to bury, enterrar in Espanol, enterrar, to bury. And very difficult sentence. So the last question, we learn about recycled paper that 80% of Europeans recycle their paper. Not exactly. EU countries recycle more tons of it than the US. Not exactly. There was not enough of it to meet the demand in the US in 2018. Okay. The US has more tons, so yes, but 80% of the tons. Okay, this is difficult for me. I have a problem with this answer. Yes, it's very clear. I think the answer is, oh no, maybe not B. I'm thinking B, but not B. Let's see, 2018. I don't know. I'm having difficulty with the answer. Well, here's the key question. In 2018, the demand for recycled paper exceeded the available supply there. Yes, so I think probably the answer for number 15 is C. I think 15C. That is my guess, a little guess, but I think that's my answer. And then finally, 16. A lot of recycled materials end up finally, remember, end up is the final being burnt, although it is more expensive than recycling it because they could transmit disease, because they were not suitable for recycling. I think C as well. So very quickly, I think maybe the answer for 16 is C. Yes, I think C again. And I might have a doubt, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm very quick in my answer. So it could be a mistake. And the final answers are here. And we check the paper making a comeback. And we can see the answers here in the text. So number 9 is B, yes. Number 10 is B. Number 11 is C, yes. 12 is B, good. 13 is B, that's correct. 14 is also B. 15 is C, and 16 is C. Very good. So we have the majority correct, one mistake, option 10. So option 10 was the mistake, and the question was banknotes will never disappear. That was my answer, but no, the correct answer for number 10 was B, people's assumption. So very similar, but sometimes it's very tricky, and this is a very good example of tricky English. So that's very, very good exercise. That is task 2 from the Escuela Oficial de Idiomas exercise, and I think very interesting exercise for everybody to practice English. Everybody can learn from this exercise and this lesson. So that's fantastic. Thank you for watching. Thank you for participating. Thank you for watching live and recorded. If you have a question, please put your question in the chat. And thank you, Sandra. Yes, some mistakes, but everything was more or less good. So thank you so much, and have a very good Monday, and have a good week as well. Remember my schedule. This is my schedule for the week. You can see all my lessons similar to last week, and tomorrow is the next lesson in the morning. And if you want to contact me, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Pinterest, or WhatsApp are all the possible channels if you want to contact me. If you are a company and a business and a school and you want to promote your company during this lesson, you can advertise during my class if you want. That's possible. And if you want to support me as a student, you can make a donation through the bank details or through PayPal. All the information is on my pinned post on Facebook as well. So that's everything. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your participation. I hope that you have a very good day today, and thank you so much, and hopefully I will talk to you soon. So have a good Monday, and talk to you soon, and thank you for watching. Bye bye, and take care.